Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I've got for you a game in the E100, and I'm going to be trying to answer the question for you about which gun to use on the E100. Now first things first, this game is a full tier 10 game on the Ghost Town map. I played this whilst trying to 3-mark my E100. It wasn't like the mark on screen says 95.22, that's what it currently is. I think at this point I was around 90% or something. I still had a good fair few games to go before I actually marked the tank. But yeah, the E100, I decided to mark this thing because, well, I'm going through all tanks to mark different tanks. And as you can see, this is a good opportunity for a thumbnail. As you can see, there are two different guns in the E100, and I was kind of, the whole time, experimenting, like, which one of the two guns to use. We have the 15cm, and we also have, that was really good timing, we also have the 12.8 centimeters, sorry, not 112 centimeters, Jesus Christ, that'd be huge. Yeah. And I obviously played through these tanks. Like I said, I was marking the E100. I'm trying to mark all tanks in the game. And I was really struggling. Like, I've been doing premium tanks, reward tanks, things like that. And I decided that I wanted to start marking some tech tree tanks. And I thought the best way to do it is probably going to be to start doing some tier 10s. And then what I thought is if I start with a tier 10 and then move down, do the tier 9, do the tier 8, do the tier 7. 6, 5, etc. and then start on a different tech tree and then go down, and then I kind of get used to the play style. So I started with the E100, and I've actually since doing this I've done the E100, and I've also completed the E75, and we're just going to pause here a second and just watch this beautiful moment, and then we're going to insert a little clip of my reaction when this happened. Oh shit! Oh no! Oh dear! Oh, I feel so bad. Oh wait, no, I don't. No, 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 I don't. No. Fuck you, dude. Oh dear. Goodbye, 279. And as you just saw, I was a little bit happy with that. So yeah, the E100, choice of two guns, 15cm, which was the old gun that people used to use on this tank, has 750 average damage, accuracy, aim time not great, DPM's not great, like, its shell velocity is a lot lower, reload time's a lot longer, but obviously you do the 750 alpha. The standard penetration is the same across both guns, and the heat penetration is slightly more on the 15cm. Then you had the 128mm gun come along, so I'm switching between centimeters and millimeters, you guys know what I mean. And pretty much they buffed it. It never used to really be a decent gun to use because it was kind of, it didn't really do anything special, and the whole point of the E100 was to use the big gun. And now the majority of people use the smaller gun. The 128mm gun has better DPM, has a lower alpha damage, but it's still 530, which is really not too bad. You fire 5 rounds a minute, so like I said, you've got the nice DPM. The shell velocity is better on the standard rounds. Really better on the premium rounds because it gets APCR. Aim time's better, accuracy's better. It's just, yeah, they're two different guns. And like I said, the majority of people seem to use the, nice shot there, Max, seem to use the 128mm gun. Whereas, as you can see in this gameplay, and what I used to 3-mark the tank, I used the 15cm gun, the 150mm gun. Now, you might be asking, well, Max, why the flying fuck would you use the 15cm gun to mark? Surely you want to use the most competitive gun. And by the seams of it, the 128cm is the more competitive. 128mm. God, I really need to just stick to one set of units and sort it out. The 128mm, god damn it, Max, is arguably the more competitive gun, and I think if you ask any World of Tanks player, the 12.8cm is definitely the more competitive gun. It has 2.5 seconds aim time as opposed to 2.7, 0.39 dispersion as opposed to 0.4. Not really much difference in the out-and-out accuracy, and obviously the DPM is a lot higher, and you get APCR with nice shell velocity as opposed to the AP with kind of as opposed to heat with really, really poor shell velocity. Like, on the heat, we're talking 606 meters a second. On the AP on this thing, it's 707? Yeah, 757. So really, 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 really poor shell velocity, which means you saw me fire at that STRV a minute ago where I had a really long-range shot, and this shell took absolutely ages to get there. So saying all of this, why the hell am I using the 15cm? Surely the 15cm is just the worst gun, and for 3 marking you'd be better using the 12.8. My reasoning for this, firstly, the higher alpha is nice. If it comes to a peaking engagement, obviously, it's very nice. The accuracy isn't that much worse, and the aim time really isn't that much worse. The main things come down to the DPM and the alpha damage. Other point as well, the heat rounds. And I'll do each of these in turns. First things first, the alpha damage. You want the higher alpha damage on the U100. The reason for this, the U100, even though it has had an armor buff at the front of the tank, people still know, like, pretty much every game that I went into, because I started off using the 12.8 because I thought it was the better gun, it would be the better tank to market. But I found myself having worse games, and the main reason for that is because the front of your turret, everybody knows. When you shoot the U100, if you've got heat loaded, if you're in something like the 277, or any of the Russian heavies that have the 340 heat pen, any of the tier 10 medium tanks that have like 330 heat pen, any of the big tank destroyers, anything like that, you know you shoot the U100, you wait for him to point his gun towards you, and then you just shoot him straight through the front of the turret. Easy peasy. If he's hiding his lower plate, you shoot him through the front of the turret. You just do. And like, if you look at my hit log for when we were at close range, like, everybody fires heat. No, pretty much nobody fires AP at this thing anymore. I didn't give enough lead on that shot, and I didn't also aim low enough. But nobody fires AP really against it anymore, and if somebody does fire AP, you can't rely on it. You have to assume that everybody is firing heat at you, and if they don't, bonus, they might actually bounce. Which means, when you've got somebody who's got 330, 340 heat pen, if you angle your turret perfectly, and the perfect angle on the U100 turret is pretty much just, I think it's slightly less than 45 degrees. You can bounce the shots like 50% of the time, and if you wiggle, you usually can bounce the shots. However, as soon as you want to fire your gun at them, obviously you have to turn your turret towards the enemy, face them, and they just go straight through your turret before you even have time to aim, and that's with either gun. You then have to aim, shoot them, you do one shot of damage, they do 1 shot of damage. Yes, you trade. Obviously, trading with the lower alpha gun is worse. So therefore, the increase in DPM of about 400, the 12.8 over the 15, then becomes a lot less, because you're having to peak 1 for 1 pretty much every time in a lot of engagements. Obviously, this is not all engagements, but a lot of engagements you're having to peak 1 for 1 every time. Which means that every time you peak, you pretty much have to assume you're going to take 1 shot of damage. So why, when you peak, would you not do more damage back in return? And that's something that I found. Basically, you've got to assume you're going to take 1 for 1. So I found that using the 15cm was so much better, because every time you peak, you do 750, and every time they peak, they do however much, but you're just doing more than the 530 that the smaller gun would do. Also, on top of that, like I said, with the 15cm, you get the heat rounds. On the 12.8, you get APCR that have 311mm penetration. On the 15, you get heat rounds that have 334mm penetration. And simple maths will tell you that 334 is better. It is also much better. As I said, the majority of engagements you get into with this tank are heavy on heavy fights. Things like against U100s, Mouses, Super Conks, stuff like that. And the heat rounds that have 330 pen are so much better. So much better than the APCR. Again, use the example in an E100 versus E100 fight, which you do get quite a lot in this tank. Like, you do quite often end up fighting other E100s. And it's really upsetting here. SCRV, I don't really even have time to aim, and the shell doesn't go raw. And unfortunately, we do end up getting finished off. However, we do get all of the spotting damage, which was a really nice game. Puts us up to like 1700 assisted. But in a E100 on E100 fight, and I found myself when I was using the couple of games that I was using the 12.8 centimeter, I had a lot of fights against other E100s, and when they were using the 15 centimeter gun, I would lose because the 311 millimeters of APCR pen wasn't reliable enough to go through their turret, and it bounced every now and again. And when it did pen, you're obviously, again, you're trading 1 for 1 because the 311 APCR was nowhere near enough. If he was angling, you'd have to get really lucky to actually be able to pen his turret. So he was then dictating the pace of the fight. To be fair, I can keep playing this game for a bit until we watch the Leo die. But he was dictating the pace of the fight because he could sit there, angle his turret, wait for him to be reloaded. He'd pop out, shoot me once, I'd shoot him once. Sometimes I would bounce. He wouldn't that often because his heat pen is a lot higher, and obviously heat is better against flat surfaces of armor. So he would just end up out trading me. And then, again, he'd angle his turret, he'd wait for his reload, he'd come back, he'd shoot me, and then I'd probably have done 500 damage because I'd have bounced one, or I'd have got unlucky with one, and he'd have penned me twice. So I'd have done 500 damage, he would have done 1500 damage. And I found that started happening with a lot of engagements. I would bounce the APCR. Like, this obviously isn't everything, and for some people, the 12.8 will work better. But I honestly found that the 15 centimeter worked better. I could use my DPM a lot more effectively with those heat rounds, and I didn't take as much damage in return because I didn't have to peak as much because I had the higher alpha. And I honestly found that the 15 centimeter was better. Like, I played a couple of games around when I was around, I think I was around 80%, 85%, around the 2 mark kind of area. I was experimenting with both. And with the 12.8, I couldn't get the tank above 85%. Granted, I wasn't playing quite as well. But as soon as I played the 15, it felt a lot more comfortable. I felt like I was doing higher averages a lot more. And inevitably, we ended up marking the tank with the 15 centimeter gun. And yeah, that is what I would recommend. Granted, both guns are pretty good. But I would actually... I'm not going to say recommend the 15 centimeter because, you know, bloody everyone and their mums would be like, well, what the hell are you talking about? But I would honestly say that I think the 15 centimeter is definitely more of a competitive gun than people give it credit for, because if you just look at the stats, it's really not. But you need to take into account, A, the heat rounds in heavy on heavy fights, like that ammo rack on the 279E at the start of the game. Wouldn't have happened if I was using the APCR probably. I don't think it would have penned, whereas the heat does. And also the... like, trading, you having to turn your turret towards the enemies less often and doing higher alpha damage when you do actually enables you to do more damage. So, yeah. At the end of the day, it's up to you. I would probably say that for some people, the 12.8 is the more competitive gun, but I actually found it more comfortable in playing the 15 centimeter. So, yeah, in that game, we ended up doing about 6,600 damage. We'll have a look at the post-game stats in just a second. 4 kills. Really, really nice. And, yeah. That continued the trend all the way up to the 95%, and excuse me, I did actually manage to 3-mark the 100, which was very, very nice. Anyway, if you have enjoyed the video, guys, make sure you give it a like, subscribe, notifications, all that good stuff. Let's go take a look at the post-game stats. So, there we go, guys. That was an ace tanker in the E100. The E100's ace is relatively low, because obviously a lot of people do get this tank as their first tier 10, because, you know, you play a tank game. A lot of people who don't really know a huge amount about tanks, they play the tank game, they go, oh, what am I going to go towards? Oh, Tiger. And then they get the Tiger, they go through the Tiger 2. If they like playing the game, then they get the E75 and then the E100. So a lot of people, you do find this tank is a lot of people's first tier 10. Obviously, the Germans as well are the first tech tree that you see. And the E100 is the one these days that's smack down the middle. So a lot of people do go for this tank first. So the ace is relatively low. But still, always nice to get an ace tanker. High caliber as well. 6,600 damage is really nice. Wasn't the highest damage game that I had towards marking the E100. But still a very nice game. 4 kills. 1,758 assisted as well. And 1,500 blocked with armor. Which again wasn't the best. There was one game I did block 12k with my armor. It was so funny. I think there was 2 crowns and a progetto were just bouncing off my turret because I just pretty much angled it. I wasn't bothering trying to shoot them because, like I said, when you angle your turret towards the enemy in the 100, you do start taking a load of damage. We did really well, 1,249 base XP. And we definitely, I don't think if we wouldn't have ammo racked that 279, we might have still won the game, but he would have done a hell of a lot more damage because he'd already done 1,800 damage when his head came off. So it would have been a lot more tricky. And obviously, if he'd have started angling properly against me, it would have made it more difficult. And who knows what would happen. But very nice. Nice bit of luck. Obviously, World of Tanks, RNG. It's always nice to have a bit of luck. We fired 14 shots, hit 11 and penned 8, which is not too shabby. Not the best, but I think we did fire a couple of blind shots at the STRV or something as well. So that's really not too bad. Obviously, you are still going to bounce shells. The accuracy on either gun isn't great. And 334 heat pen, although it's quite nice, it's not the greatest. It's not like firing American Tier 10 Tank Destroyer APCR, which is basically point and click, or like Jagdpanzer E100, which is basically point and click. We still made credits, however, I will say that this was over the Christmas event, and we had battle payments on, and I had a personal reserve on, so don't expect to make credits in E100. Something I didn't actually talk about, the way I have this tank set up, I actually use 105 gasoline and have the firefighting directive, so I do use a hell of a lot of credits every game. Just for that reason, because I find being able to get to engagements quickly as well is very, very nice. I don't actually know in that game, thinking about it now, if I... Hang on, are we still... Oh, we're not on my rec. But yeah, I don't know if I used chocolate in that game, again, or if I was still experimenting. But I found the best thing to do was use 105 gasoline, a turbo, and then a firefighting directive for the crew. So if you do get set on fire, you do put it out relatively quickly. Because like I say, getting to engagements is key in this tank, because if not, you can have games. That was a relatively long game. It lasted 10.5 minutes. We were alive for 9 of those minutes. But you do find in the U100, you can sometimes get left behind in a battle, especially if it's one of those like 4-minute games. So I found to do more consistent damage, being a more mobile tank, maybe obviously not being able to use equipment for like the gun, or using hardening or stuff like that in place of the turbo or in place of food, I still found being able to get to the engagements quicker meant I could do more damage when I was there. But yeah, I'm going to stop waffling now, because this has been a very long replay, not actually talking much about the replay itself. So like I said before, guys, if you have enjoyed the video, please make sure you give it a like. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Happy New Year to everyone as well, because I'm pretty sure this video is going to come out on New Year's Eve, as it is currently New Year's Eve, and I'm editing it and uploading it pretty much straight away. So whether you're watching this video, and you might be one of the last people to watch it in 2021, or one of the first to watch it in 2022, please do let me know down in the comments. And other than that, thank you all so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.